Ladies and gentlemen, India, the land of wisdom and warriorship, of Mahatma and missiles, of meditation and might, is not just defending its borders. It is redefining what it means to be powerful. India's military might is not just terrifying because of its weapons. It's terrifying because of its will. Because when 1.4 billion people stand united, there is no missile strong enough, no strategy smart enough, no enemy bold enough to shake their resolve. India's strength lies not in loud declarations, but in silent, consistent preparation that often goes unnoticed by the casual observer. While many nations project power through showmanship and media displays, India takes a different path, one that reflects its deep-rooted philosophy of patience, resilience, and strategic foresight. For decades, India has operated under the radar, building a military and defense ecosystem grounded in efficiency, discipline, and technological advancement. This silent preparation is not accidental. It is intentional. It stems from a long history of defending sovereignty without aggression, of believing that true power doesn't need to be shouted. It simply needs to be ready. Across mountains, oceans, deserts, and skies, India's armed forces train relentlessly. Their exercises are vast in scale, their simulations precise, and their planning meticulous. While the world sleeps, Indian soldiers patrol the heights of the Himalayas under sub-zero temperatures, manning the most difficult terrains on Earth. India's Navy watches over thousands of kilometers of coastline, prepared for any intrusion. Its Air Force doesn't just fly sorties. It builds strategies for high-altitude, all-weather warfare, and now even space-based defense systems. All this is done with minimal global fanfare, but maximum internal coordination. The silence in India's approach is not weakness, it is wisdom. It's the recognition that true power is not reactive, but proactive. By the time a threat materializes, India is already prepared. Whether it's modernizing its missile systems, advancing cyber defense protocols, or expanding indigenous defense manufacturing through initiatives like Make in India, every step is part of a long-term vision. This quiet buildup sends a clear message. India is not preparing for war, but it is fully prepared if war ever comes to its door. This silent strength also comes from unity. 1 billion citizens believe in their nation's sovereignty and the power of its armed forces. That collective belief is a force multiplier. The morale and motivation of Indian soldiers come not just from orders, but from a deep sense of purpose, to protect a civilization that has stood the test of time for thousands of years. India's leadership, both political and military, understands the importance of staying ahead, not just in firepower, but in information, strategy, and global positioning. That's why India invests quietly in intelligence, surveillance, and diplomatic channels that enhance national security without resorting to saber-rattling. In today's world where noise often overshadows nuance, India chooses substance over spectacle. It does not rush into conflict, but when pushed, it responds with a force that is both terrifying and precise. New India is not the same nation the world once viewed through the lens of tolerance and restraint alone. It is a country that has evolved, awakened, and transformed into a formidable power that does not tolerate threats to its sovereignty, integrity, or people. This transformation is not merely political or military, it is psychological. There is a shift in mindset across all levels of society, from the corridors of power in New Delhi to the remote villages near the borders. A new spirit of assertiveness has taken hold. This spirit is not fueled by aggression, but by self-respect. It is a quiet but firm declaration that India will no longer look the other way when provoked, challenged, or disrespected. In recent years, the world has witnessed how swiftly and decisively India can respond when pushed. Whether it was retaliatory airstrikes across borders or surgical operations deep into hostile territory, India has demonstrated that patience has limits and that provocations come with consequences. The leadership today reflects the mood of the nation, calm in times of peace, but fearless in the face of danger. This is a new India that sets its own red lines and defends them with precision, not noise. The change is also visible in how India deals with diplomacy and global alliances. It no longer plays the passive participant on the world stage. Instead, it speaks with clarity and stands its ground in negotiations. If its interests are at stake, India will walk away from any table where its voice is not heard or its dignity not respected. This confidence is born out of strength, not just military, but economic, technological, and cultural. It comes from the realization that India is no longer a nation that needs to prove its worth. It is a nation that demands its due. Internally, this new India empowers its armed forces with greater freedom and faster decision-making. Bureaucratic delays are giving way to real-time responses, and outdated doctrines are being replaced with dynamic strategies suited for modern threats. The youth of India, deeply patriotic and technologically savvy, stand ready to defend their nation with pride. There is a collective understanding that while peace is desired, it cannot come at the cost of dignity or security. This India does not react impulsively, but it also does not remain silent when the world is beginning to notice that threats, whether from hostile neighbors or foreign entities, are now met with clarity, courage, and action. India's military power is not solely measured by the number of tanks it rolls out or the missiles it tests. While its arsenal is undeniably advanced and growing, the true core of India's strength lies in something far deeper: its will. The will of a nation forged through centuries of struggle, survival, and resurgence. This inner strength, this mental and emotional resilience, is what elevates India's military might beyond machines and systems. It is the unshakable resolve of its people and its soldiers that makes India a force the world cannot ignore. Every soldier in the Indian Armed Forces carries more than a weapon. They carry the weight of 1.4 billion dreams. They fight not just for territory, but for identity. They defend not just borders, but the soul of a civilization that has stood the test of time. Their courage comes not from command alone, but from an unbreakable sense of duty, a commitment to protect the land where every grain of soil tells a story of sacrifice. When soldiers brave the sub-zero temperatures of Siachen or face bullets in hostile zones, it is not just training that keeps them standing. It is willpower. It is grit. It is patriotism that runs deeper than fear. Weapons can be bought, technology can be borrowed, but the will to defend, to endure, and to overcome cannot be imported. It must be built. And India has built it with blood, sweat, and generations of undying spirit. This is why India's adversaries may calculate its military capacity in numbers, but they often underestimate its spiritual and psychological strength. That's a mistake history has shown to be dangerous, because when a country fights with conviction, with belief in its cause, it becomes unstoppable. India's will is also seen in how it chooses to respond to conflict. It never rushes into war, but it never backs down either. It stands firm, even when the path is lonely, even when the cost is high. From Kargil to Balakot, from cross-border strikes to peacekeeping missions, India's actions are driven not by hunger for power, but by a moral force, the belief that justice must be protected and peace must be earned, not begged for. This mental fortitude extends beyond the battlefield. It lives in the minds of its citizens who support the armed forces, not just with slogans, but with unyielding national pride. It lives in the leadership that values strength, guided by wisdom. And it lives in a culture that honors its protectors as heroes, not just in war, but in everyday life. India stands today as one of the few nations in the world that is fully prepared to defend itself on every modern front: land, air, sea, space, and cyber. This multidimensional readiness is not the result of recent urgency, but decades of strategic planning, development, and relentless innovation. The Indian armed forces have evolved into a robust, well-coordinated machine, capable of responding swiftly and decisively to any threat, anywhere, at any time. This comprehensive defense posture ensures that India's national security is never vulnerable from any direction. On land, India maintains one of the world's largest and most battle-hardened armies. With high-altitude warfare expertise, especially in terrains like the Himalayas and the deserts of Rajasthan, Indian ground forces are trained to fight in extreme conditions. They are supported by advanced artillery, modern armored vehicles, and an expanding fleet of indigenous equipment developed under the Make in India initiative. From conventional border defense to anti-terror operations, the Indian Army remains ever vigilant and ready for combat. In the air, the Indian Air Force stands as a formidable pillar of national security. Equipped with a mix of state-of-the-art fighter jets like the Rafale, Su-30 MKI, and Tejas, along with advanced surveillance systems, India's air defense strategy is both aggressive and defensive. The IAF can dominate airspace across vast distances, conduct deep strikes, and neutralize aerial threats with precision. Its growing capability in unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and integrated air command systems reflects its forward-thinking approach to future warfare. At sea, the Indian Navy ensures the security of one of the world's most vital maritime zones, the Indian Ocean region. With aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered submarines, stealth destroyers, and a global presence through naval exercises and partnerships, India's naval strength projects stability far beyond its shores. The Navy protects vital trade routes, counters piracy, and serves as a strategic deterrent in regional power dynamics. India's preparedness extends far beyond the physical battlefield. In space, India has made significant advancements in satellite defense, surveillance, and communication systems. The successful anti-satellite SAT test in 2019 demonstrated India's ability to neutralize threats in orbit, positioning it among an elite group of space-capable defense nations. Satellites now play a crucial role in India's intelligence gathering and real-time battlefield coordination. In the cyber realm, India has ramped up its capabilities to counter digital warfare. Cyber command units are tasked with defending critical infrastructure from hacking, data theft, and cyber terrorism. As warfare evolves into the digital domain, India's proactive investments in cybersecurity and AI Drew defense technologies are essential in securing its national interests across every possible dimension. India's strength is not built to conquer, dominate, or intimidate. It is built to protect, to preserve peace, and to uphold justice. Unlike many global powers that wield military force as a tool of aggression, India uses its power as a shield, not a sword. This philosophy is deeply rooted in India's ancient values, where Dharma, righteousness, guides action. For India, strength is not about how many battles it can start, but how many it can prevent through deterrence, diplomacy. From the moment of its independence, India has always chosen the path of restraint, even in the face of provocation. Whether it was wars imposed upon it or decades of cross-border threats and terrorism, India has shown remarkable patience. But that patience must not be mistaken for weakness. India's strength acts as a stabilizing force, not just within its borders, but across South Asia and beyond. It believes in defending the defenseless and standing for peace, but when that peace is threatened, it responds with clarity and conviction. India's armed forces are among the most respected in the world, not only for their combat skills, but for their humanitarian approach. Indian soldiers have served in dozens of United Nations peacekeeping missions, protecting civilians in war-torn regions far from their homeland. This willingness to serve beyond national interests shows that India's military is not just a protector of territory, but a guardian of global peace. It is a rare quality for a rising power, to be strong enough to act, yet wise enough to hold back unless truly necessary. Internally, India's military protects one of the world's largest and most diverse populations. With hundreds of languages, religions, and cultures, India's unity is a miracle in itself. That unity is preserved in part by the brave men and women who keep the nation safe from internal threats, insurgencies, and disasters. Whether in times of natural calamities or civil emergencies, the Indian military is always among the first to respond, not with weapons, but with compassion and discipline. The true essence of India's power lies in its intention. Its military is not an instrument of fear, but a symbol of security. It reflects the will of a nation that seeks harmony, but refuses to be cornered. India believes that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice and safety. And to ensure that, it must be strong. Not to dominate the world, but to ensure that no one can dominate it or disrupt the peace it fights to maintain. India today is far more than just a country defined by borders on a map. It is a global force, a rising power that commands respect through its actions, values, and resilience. Its influence is not limited to military strength or economic performance alone, but extends into the realms of diplomacy, culture, technology, and humanitarian leadership. With the world becoming increasingly interconnected, India's role has evolved from a regional player to a nation whose voice carries weight in the global conversation. For decades, India has quietly built its foundation, not by mimicking the strategies of colonial powers, but by staying true to its civilizational ethos. It doesn't seek to dominate others. It seeks to uplift and engage. It is this balanced approach that earns it both admiration and influence. India's leadership in forums like the G20, BRICS, and the United Nations is a testament to its growing clout. Nations across continents look to India as a partner in peace, trade, innovation, and stability. From Africa to Southeast Asia, India's diplomatic and developmental outreach is changing lives and shaping alliances. On the economic front, India is now one of the fastest growing major economies in the world. Its digital revolution, driven by innovation and fueled by the energy of its massive youth population, is transforming industries. Indian entrepreneurs are shaping the future of global technology, and Indian minds are behind some of the biggest breakthroughs in science and space. The success of missions like Chandrayaan and partnerships in quantum and AI-based technologies only reinforce the image of India as a knowledge powerhouse that contributes meaningfully to humanity's progress. Culturally, India's soft power is unparalleled. Its music, cinema, yoga, cuisine, and spiritual philosophy have found homes in every corner of the planet. But it is the depth of India's moral voice, the message of nonviolence, inclusivity, and respect for all life, that resonates strongest. In a time when the world is deeply divided on many fronts, India stands firm as a nation that builds bridges instead of walls. India's military strength, economic momentum, and technological capabilities give it undeniable power, but it is the way India chooses to wield that power with responsibility, humility, and vision that sets it apart. Nations respect strength, but they admire integrity. India has both. It is not just a rising superpower, it is a moral compass for many. It has earned its place not through fear or force, but through consistency, character, and an unshakable commitment to peace with dignity.